Hello and welcome everyone. It's the Transform Your Relationship Show. I'm Laura Rubinstein. Hi, Rhoberta Shaler. How are you?
I am well. I am well. I love your enthusiasm.
I love our show. This is like so fun to be able to get together and do this and talk about, well, today's juicy topic, of course, is drum roll please, handling conflict with family and friends. Because what do they say? Conflict happens, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, just like shift happens.
Yeah, I think it's in a lot of people's nature to avoid conflict.
I agree, certainly, and it's also in a whole lot of other people's nature to explode at will.
Aha. Put the two together and it's very volatile.
Yeah, and one of the big deals about that is tying into our last show on the inner courtroom and the inner critic. If you're having conflict within, and then you have something that looks like conflict without, then all bets are off that this is going to go well unless you have great skills. Because if I'm already conflicted within, I'm just looking for a fight. I'm looking for somebody to make me wrong. I'm looking for someone to maybe snub me or not give me credit or whatever is going on. And then we get into the you always and you never fight. And that's never good, just to use, just for the sake of using the word again. It doesn't help us. And so if we're with a person who withholds their anger and doesn't say anything and is silently fuming, and we're from a family where people let it all hang out, we've also got a problem. So it's a good thing that we're opening the show talking about this great spectrum of what people do with conflict.
Yeah, I have noticed that, sometimes it's a check on myself. If I like burst out, I'm like, whoa, there was some pent up energy there. Where was that from? It wasn't from that person. There was something building up. And I remember having a relationship where I didn't realize it, but apparently this person was holding in frustration, or expressing the challenge that, and then I do something and I do something and I do something and I do, and I didn't realize I was building this up in him, or it wasn't me, it was building up in him every time I did something. But then at one point I do something, nothing different than what I've been doing before. And like you said, explosion. I'm like, wow, where did the atomic bomb come from? Right. And I'd be in tears and like, and, and so we really have to get good at handling internal conflict
Yeah.
and external and things, and not turning an external conflict into an internal conflict. It
Oh,
almost,
that's a good point.
like he was trying to manage it, and then he could no longer.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit, I guess it's because it's in the news right now, but it's a little bit like North Korea. You know, huge, huge, huge explosion underground. And you can kind of feel the ripples, but you didn't see it. And then you look at the mushroom cloud from Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and whoa, it was really evident. So that's kind of what goes on. Some people are really underground about it, and then all of a sudden, and other people are just right out in the open. And neither of those things are good because they're both terribly damaging to your self-esteem. Because first of all, did I do that, like you said, where did that come from him? And then you don't feel good about yourself. Even if you have righteous indignation in the moment, after a while you don't feel great about it because you didn't handle it well. And learning to handle conflict within is primary, because it will help us handle conflict with other people.
Mm, that's like huge. Handling conflict within. So how do I identify this conflict first so it doesn't come out like in other ways, little explosions here and there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, think about the things that you say to yourself. what, excuse me, I don't know what got into me here. Think of the things that you say to yourself, like, well, nobody really cares about me. Okay, you got that little thing running inside you. And so you're looking for evidence that nobody really cares about you. That's what you're looking for. Like, I'm not looking for validation. I'm looking for evidence that nobody really cares about me. And then somebody makes a statement and you go, there's the proof. Nobody really cares about me. Well, I didn't handle the conflict within, which is probably, it's completely untrue that nobody really cares about you. But somewhere back in your background, probably when you were quite young, you got the program installed, the malware installed to say, I suppose it's malware. You got the malware installed to say that nobody really cares about you. But the evidence in reality is not there. So we have to handle the conflict within. That's why people get help. That's why people come and see me, because these are things you can't necessarily see on your own.
Yeah, or you're creating that evidence,
Well,
like you
you're
just
looking
said,
for it all the time.
or
You're
you're looking.
gathering validation for your point that nobody really cares about me.
Now, why would we do such a thing?
Well, it's kind of counterintuitive because we want to be cared about. But when you've had a malware program installed when we're young, it's a virus that's set to go off every time we're maybe, like Alcoholics Anonymous say, tired or hungry or, all those things. And so it becomes automatic. And that's what we have to look at is our automatic internal conflict statements. And I write a lot about validation, and that's something we talked about before, but not as much as we probably could. Many times when we're young, we've been invalidated. Like what we think or what we feel or what we need or what we want simply doesn't matter. Like, who cares? You're a kid, maybe you come from a family where kids are supposed to be seen and not heard, and who cares what's going on for you? This is what the family's doing, or this is what the difficult parent is doing, or whatever. So you're invalidated, and so you expect to be invalidated, and you look for invalidating messages. And when somebody gives you a validating message, you don't believe it.
Ouch. I want more people to be validated. How do we get that?
You're great at asking questions this morning, Miss Rubinstein. Uh, how do we get that? Well, first of all, we have to validate ourselves. So, as I'm doing all the talking in this moment, I would just say this: let's look at something that's near and dear to my heart. I started studying yoga when I was 19 years old, and heaven knows that's a very long time ago. Back before anybody was doing it except weird, sturdy, bald-headed men who thought I was crazy to want to do it. So let's just think about the chakras. That's my point. Whether or not you believe in chakras, it doesn't matter. This is a metaphor for things. So imagine that your lowest chakra is survival, which it is. And then you have to deal with survival. And you think that you don't deserve to survive, or you think that other people have told you that you're not important or whatever. You don't develop the inalienable right to know that you deserve to take up space and draw breath. So the first thing that we have to work on is to come to that place of understanding that we absolutely deserve to take up space and draw breath. Right? It's not a question like, should I be here? Am I okay? All of that stuff that gets installed in some unfortunate situations when we're young. We have to have that really strong belief that, yeah, I've been given the opportunity of a lifetime, and it's not mine to sit in the shadows. It's mine to live fully. And many times when I work with people, Laura, that's the basic place that we have to go back to. And just to add to the conversation, because if I go back there and I can get into that space of believing that I do deserve to be here and take up space and draw breath, then I can believe that I have the inalienable right to be assertive. And assertive means not conflict. It means that I have the right to say what I think. We've talked about this so much, the personal weather report. I have the inalienable right to say what I think, what I feel, what I need, what I want. As long as I don't talk about anybody else, that's assertive. And when I can get to that place, I don't feel powerless anymore.
There's a self-reliability there. There's a knowing that I matter, right? Like you said, I deserve to exist. My presence is of value here, and I deserve to be happy. You know, my husband likes to say, you can't insult a happy person. Like, so things can happen on the outside, but if in the inside we've got that core, it's very powerful. It's taking on your power, saying that, yeah, oh my gosh, okay, what if that was true? Like, I actually deserve to be here. I actually have a valid viewpoint, and what I'm feeling is and thinking and wanting and desiring is okay, is valid. It's like human. Like that's what people are. People who
Yeah. Well,
think, feel,
think
and
of the
want.
chances, Laura. Think of the chances of being here. A 1 in a million chance that a sperm is going to meet an egg, and you're it. I mean, even the chances that you exist are enormous, and
Extraordinary.
and
Yeah.
you do exist. So what are you here for? To sit in the shadows and be somebody else's whipping block, or that you perpetuating the voice of somebody who in your past misused you
Mm.
and you keep repeating the message? That's internal conflict. And it will keep going as long as you don't adjust the mindset.
Bravo. I, what if we came from that level, right? And we were like all, oh my gosh, I deserve to be here. Then we can actually have communication and experience, interactions and deal with things other than whatever is in the voices in our head saying you're not good
Yeah.
enough. I mean, like, what a concept. I want everybody to walk away knowing that there's this foundation that you matter, that you're valid, that, you know, all is good with you. You're here. The fact that you exist, like you said, is amazing. So let's start living from that place, not like an arrogant place, but like, okay, we all have the right to exist here. No one's better than another, and I'm not bad just for existing, right? No, nobody's
Yes.
bad just for existing. You're all like, we all start on level playing field, and then what's possible? Like, wow, now we can say, we're not acting out of a less than place. It seems like that's the problem. It
It's a
causes a lot
big
of
problem. That's
conflict.
internal conflict for sure. If I don't think that I am equal and I deserve to take up space, then I'll already be resentful that I've projected on you that you don't think I am worthy to take up space. Now the fight's on already internally.
And we've got a vicious cycle going on.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
exist, and therefore you must not think I exist. Therefore, I don't think I make, like it's like, can we get off that merry-go-round, please? I always hated merry-go-rounds. They made me so dizzy.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, it's important, I, on the back of our book, Soul Solitude, Taking Time for Our Souls to Catch Up, in great big letters, it says, you matter. And you said that, Laura, just a minute ago, but please, everybody, take a moment and ask yourself, if I truly believed I matter, what would I be doing and saying?
mm,
Because people go, oh, yeah, I matter, I know I matter, because it's the right answer. But it's that next question. If you truly believed you mattered, that you deserved to take up space and draw breath, what would you do? What would you think? What would you feel? What would you contribute? How would you demonstrate it every single moment? It's not selfish, it's self-aware. There's a big difference. Selfish is I want everything for myself, which means you don't get it, I get it. But self-aware means I spend enough time to know what's going on with me so that I can have the best life possible rather than just being reactive and responsive to other people.
So we have a question has come in. This is a fabulous question. Thank you, Heather. What is the answer to a child who says, "I didn't ask to be born"?
Oh, that's such a sad question. The answer is yes, but I so wanted you to be born. Because you must validate the child in the moment. Because what they're actually saying at that moment is, why can't I get what I want? And that's a heart-wrenching question or a statement from a kid. And they usually make it when they're angry. Well, you can't tell me what to do. I didn't ask to be born. It's all your fault. I raised 3 kids mostly alone. I know I know the travails of that. And really answer the question was, stop whatever the conflict is and what's made that come out of the child's mouth and say, oh, I never wanted you to feel like that. I absolutely wanted you to be born. And I'm so happy you're here. And we're having a little tussle right now, but it doesn't in any way invalidate the fact that I want you. I love you. And I'm so happy you're here.
It's almost like a weapon that someone's trying to use. Like, I didn't ask to be born.
Yeah, it's your fault. It's that kind of thing. It's your fault I'm here, so deal with me, right? But so that's why we have to then at that moment step out of the conflict, handle the deeper issue. The deeper issue, the child is wanting to be validated for being wanted.
Mm,
Stop and handle that.
got it. So what you're fighting about is not what you're fighting about.
Right.
About that person not feeling wanted. Like, oh, I hear you now. So what you're saying is you don't feel wanted.
No, don't say that to
No,
them.
no.
No. No, because they don't want help at that moment to identify their feelings. They'll say,
Okay.
how do you know what I feel? You're always telling me you know what I feel. No, talk about your feeling.
Okay. But I so wanted you to be born.
I so wanted you, and I'm so happy you're here. And it. You have to say things in a way that doesn't sound to the child like you're here to meet my need to have somebody here, but that the child feels validated. You're special. I wanted you to be here. I'm thrilled that you are. You know, and always do things like today in Canada is the first day of school. So I had text chats with my grandchildren on the way to school, be interested in the little things, what's going on? How are you feeling about school? I said to my granddaughter, she's a fashionista. What did you wear today? Just make sure that you stay in contact deeply with children, not in an
Mm,
intrusive way, but in a very validating way. I think we should put that on the agenda. Let's do a show on validation,
yes.
because it is so important, and so many of us didn't get it. So many of us have deficits of validation, so much so, and this relates to the conflict that we were talking about earlier, so much so that when somebody says, wow, like at your birthday party the other week, everybody's validating you. You are evolved, you're self-aware, you could sit there and you could take it in. But, maybe if you were totally honest, there might have been a little crackle at the bottom of the heap inside going, oh, yeah, well, you're just saying that. You know, I don't know what went on for you, but that's what happens for people who haven't been validated. They hear something wonderful that is honest. It's not somebody trying to suck up to them. And they honestly told how valuable they are, and they cannot take it in. They hear it, but it stays just at this level. It doesn't go down through them, you know?
Yeah, well, Heather really appreciates the answers, and she said she's going to be doing some validating and reassuring, and thank you. And just to the point of, being validated, yeah, the experience of being validated in a big way is not the norm, and I'd love to see it be more because the more, I was sitting there experiencing a lot of different things. I wanted to give back the validation, like, wow, you see me as this, but you should see you as well. Like I didn't want it to be one-sided. It felt unfair in a sense. But on the other hand, it was like, um, a practice. It was because validation is building that foundation of I matter. So, okay, I want to build that foundation. So I was willing to receive it and also hear the little voices that said whatever they said and saying, well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I'm still human. Okay, I still got those little, software bugs.
Back. I'm going
The,
to take
but the,
this in.
the bugs are like so little now, they're like they're there. Yeah, I get to,
Yeah.
keep my human card there, but at the same time I realized, where do I want to put my focus? On the bugs, on the malware, or on the validation? So I just stayed as present as possible to, the people who were there and validating. And that was not my idea. It was a little bit like, oh, what are people gonna think? What if they don't want to share? What if it just comes off as too much? All the voices went off in my head even before the validating started, right?
Well, your father certainly announced that he was going to let everybody validate you. So you had pre-warning to get ready for all that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did, and I had my little freak out, and it wasn't that bad because I again brought my focus to, well, what could be the benefit of this, and how can it help me and other people? And so yeah, I love that we're going to talk about validation because I think it's incredibly important.
So we can see from this conversation about validation that that inner conflict is just like a little storm brewing all the time. It's just sitting in there. Maybe it's not doing very much, but it's sure ready to grow. And that's what people do when they work with somebody, a professional, is find those things. You don't have to wait till your world blows up. Get
Thank
you
you.
know
Yes.
work with somebody that can ask you the questions and find the things that you need to have exposed, if you like, to have a look at, and then maybe make some better choices about it. Because with the internal conflict, your own inner critic and your own inner courtroom, like as we spoke about 2 weeks ago, that's running. That's there. You have to tell the chorus to take a day off, But if it's already running, like think about this. You're at home, you're waiting for your partner or your teenager, whatever, to come home, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, he's probably going to be in a bad mood. It's, that's the way it is. And well, that wouldn't be very nice. You got this whole internal conflict conversation going on. The person walks in, they don't have a hope, to be happy and whoever they are in the moment, because you've already got this mask that we projected over them. So it's really important for us to notice that self-talk and say, how about if I allow myself, or in my case, working with people in relationship all the time, what would it be like if I could just be okay in this moment without the past chiming in? What if I could hear and see what's happening right here with this person on this day, in this moment, with each of us in the internal state that we are, and not bring the past in? Because often I work with couples and you just get some really great work going, and then one of them goes, yeah, but you had an affair. Oh, right? Like, yeah, we know that. Okay, we know that. Let's leave all that there and find out who's here now. And the same thing is true for each of us as individuals. You can look internally or look in your internal mirror and find out who's here now. Not that wounded child, not the person who's had bad experiences in relationship. How about the person that's sitting across the breakfast table for me? And do I see that person, or do I see a conglomerate of all the people that I've ever seen and been hurt by or had joy with or whatever? And I'm not willing to see that person. So therefore, we already have conflict. All the
Right.
conflict from the past brought into the present moment. Now, I realize I'm making this all sound really negative, like we're all going around with a horrible cloud over our head. But we really have to understand there's stuff there.
And there always is, and we're kind of addicted to it. And really dismantling it and being able to have that conversation of, okay, there's a past running this conversation. It's not what's present. Takes a lot of practice. And I love what you said. It's okay to get help to say, hey, what is really going on here? Like bringing awareness to the pattern that's been created, bringing the past in, or the past always being present. And I want to let people know that you have a fabulous website for relationshiphelp.com that they can go to and, first of all, even work with you. You offer a complimentary consult to see if working with you is a good thing, because you are amazing at helping people dismantle their conversations, the past from the present. And yeah, if anybody wants to work with me, I'm at transformtoday.com. Like my little, aren't these cute little
High tech, high
high tech,
tech.
very high tech here for you. But that it's insidious how it's like, for me, it feels like, okay, there's this past conversation, and then there's the fear of what happens if I don't have that past conversation. So it's like the glue. So I have to like undo the glue of the fear and say, you know what, your past isn't really all that helpful. So let's take the glue off so you can take the past and put it as a memory where it goes, and help take the best from it, make the lemons out of lemonade out of lemons, thing. And it's a process. So it's not like I did it by myself. That's what that way.
No, I think it's very wise and very much a statement of I matter to invest in help. And I don't say that because that's what I do all day. I say that because I know that. Even if nothing, like I said earlier, even if nothing, horrendous is going on, no great rifts and horrible things, that's sometimes the best time to go and just take maybe 6 weeks and say, let me just look at who I am and what's going on now, right? Like, where am I right now? What are little things that I might look at? What are my expectations? What's my mindset? What's my emotional climate?
So
And figure it out,
if someone's not in pain right now, like but they think this is a good idea, like, oh, she's saying, oh, let's have a little, it's almost a emotional checkup type of thing. Do you have a process you take people through when they don't have like something burning issue, like a relationship conflict, or what would you do with somebody?
Well, as I wrote in Kaizen for Couples, which is all about you and how to be in a couple. So don't think that you have to be in a couple right now in order to read the book. But what's important in there is to look at the process that says, am I aligning my values? Many people don't know what their values are. They've got some global values they think they should have, but they don't know what their real values are. So am I aligning my values with the vision I want for my life, with all the beliefs that I have about people and the world and money and spirit and all of that, with my current goals? Even though that might sound like goal setting, it isn't. It's alignment. And that's what you have the luxury of doing when you don't have something going on that's unpleasant.
It's again foundational work. It's also clearing the cobwebs. I know, and it's also finding out where those conflicts are, because even though we think, oh, everything's fine, there are those little naggy little voices that come in, that pop up, things all of a sudden like, what? What's going on? Why do I have this conflict all of a sudden? And it's like, oh, there's still a little cobweb under here. And
Yeah, and I want to say this, because we sound like conflict is a bad thing. It isn't a bad thing. See, conflict and confrontation are ways that lead to communication if you know what you're doing. But if you're afraid of conflict, then you'll either put it off or blow up, and neither of those things will help you. So it becomes really important to get conflict management skills. And those can be learned. I teach them. I've taught them for years and years and years. I don't regularly teach a class about that because I work with individuals mostly. But it's like my work with hijackals. We've talked about that a lot. I don't work with the hijackals much. I work with their partners and their exes and their adult children. But those are programs that got installed from the moment you drew breath. And so you have a certain mindset, you have a certain emotional climate within you that needs to be looked at. If you had a hijackal mother, for instance, like I did, you didn't even have language, and all this negative image stuff is coming at you and landing, and you don't know any different. You think, oh, the giants must be right. They're what I need to survive, so I should believe them. Like, I should shut up. I shouldn't cry. I shouldn't be hungry. I shouldn't cry when I'm hurt. I shouldn't cry when I'm scared. Think of the number of parents who have said, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. What does that ever mean to a child? So you think about all the stuff that's been programmed in there, that malware that I'm talking about, and it's completely set with viruses to go off in different circumstances throughout your life, unless you go back and find it.
So say we find it, if we're starting to work on ourselves and get the past out of the conversation. You mentioned something very key. All right, being able to manage conflict if you know what you're doing. What do we do? How do you do it right or well?
Okay, well, first of all, you have to know who you are, and you have to know what kind of relationship you want. And then you need skills. If you don't know how to talk to people without getting angry, then you have to learn to communicate in ways that are clear. Use the personal weather report. It's in Kaizen for couples. Use it to be able to get in the habit of being assertive about what you're thinking, feeling, needing, and wanting without any blame. You're just saying, this is what's going on for me. That's a huge step forward in conflict management. Because when we're other focused, and you'll find in Kaizen for couples, the relation steps, you have to be otherwise. And when you're all about you and I want this and I need that and you never and all of that, no, that's not going to work for you. So you need the relation steps to learn how to talk about that in a way that's going to be helpful to the relationship. And then you have to learn to not be afraid of conflict. And for many people, that's huge because all the skills in the world fly out the window in the face of fear.
They do, ideally. I mean, unideally, unfortunately. So how do you deal with that fear?
You're just in the business of asking the really big questions that I can't answer in less than 4 hours. Dealing with fear is a whole other matter. Maybe we should have a program about that. I love what Tolly Burkin said. No, was it Tolly Burkin? I think so. Long ago said, fear is false evidence appearing real. That's what it's an acronym for. So we're looking at something in the present moment, and it may or may not be what's causing our fear. It may be a whole lot of lifetime. So there are many, many things that we have to look at to find out what's causing our fear.
I also heard that another acronym for fear is forgetting everything's all right.
That's true. And that's from a spiritual point of view. If you believe that everything's unfolding exactly as it should, then that's your spiritual belief. But false evidence appearing real is, am I really seeing what this is, or is this my entire lifetime coming to bear in this moment and I can't see it for what it is? Because it could just be that this other person is having a bad day, but because my entire background says you're not going to treat me like that, I can't see the other. So I have to be self-aware and otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And manage that fear all together, right?
Yeah. And that, what this is? These are the tips to becoming an emotional grown-up. And that's really what I help people do.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. That's what you help people do too. I mean, we've taken special interest in how to manage our mindset and our emotional climate. Many people don't take that special interest. They're out there doing life and doing whatever they're doing. So those of us who have a special interest can be helpful to others who have just come to have a special interest.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people, wait until, and they're not waiting, but don't come to this place until something so painful happens that they have to look at, managing the mindset and like, oh, well, this all comes down to me, maybe, or if I really want things to change, maybe there's some work to do on inner awareness and then external, and then practices like your relation steps, the personal weather report, understanding your values. We've talked about so much today. So I hope those of you watching have taken notes or will re-watch this live stream because it's chock full of rich. And of course, we always have our resources for you at forrelationshiphelp.com and transformtoday.com. I work with people with using hypnosis, as well as I do a lot of business marketing, but a lot of my business marketing is foundational to this work that we've been talking about today, this process of, okay, well, what's the inner conflict that you're going through or your clients are going through?
Yeah, and you're really, really good at that. Full disclosure, there are many times that I text Laura and say, "Do you have a minute? I need to borrow your brain." And, and we need people like that in our lives. I'm ever grateful for Laura when she says yes, because right at that minute, I can't see the forest for the trees, or I can't see my way through something because my way of processing is not Laura's way of processing. And I reach out and ask her, and that's available to you. Just go to transformtoday.com and she's available for you too.
Thank you. Yeah. I love actually this topic today of being able to handle conflict with friends and family is also like, how do you solve conflict for clients and your customers, right? That's my work as a marketer. And a lot of times I have to do work with the business person on, okay, well, what's the inner conflict with you that you can't get to even allow yourself to speak to your clientele confidently, because there's those little voices in here. So we can do some work around that, and or you can work with Rhoberta first and then we can do the marketing depending on what your needs are. And like you said, Rhoberta, we're two different styles, but we really complement each other really nicely. And I love that you do the work. I wanted to mention your Hijackal site, because if you're dealing with any difficult people in your life, you don't have to deal with them alone. Please, please, please go to hijackals.com and learn about it. Get in. You have a group too, a Facebook group.
Yeah, I have three of them. What's important to know about hijackals.com is you can get my free ebook there, How to Spot a Hijackal. And a hijackal is a person who is relentlessly difficult and often disturbing in your life over time. It's not a momentary difficulty, it's somebody who has a repeated pattern. And you need to understand those patterns. So get that free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. And you will then take a big breath and realize maybe it's not my fault. And that will solve your inner conflict for the very first step.
We do have one more question, and Heather, I will ask this for you. Do you think we create our conflicts in order to force ourselves to deal with issues we fear or are reluctant to deal with?
Whoa. I'd like to work with you, Heather. You ask good questions. I think our conflicts arise, and your question is about, do we create them? Often they arise and they come to the surface and we let them out. We always have the ability to shut our mouths. Well, mostly we do. I had an event the other day where my internal voice is going, shut your mouth, and somewhere spirit is going, no. So we have those moments. But I think that we create conflict sometimes because we are so aware that something's got to happen, but we don't know how to handle it. So we go in blind and it doesn't end well. So yes, we'll create those conflicts, but it's many times they're old conflicts being replayed with new people because we're expecting them. sometimes they're absolutely real. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you're going to meet a hijackal or two in your life and they're real and they're right there. But I don't know that I would say that we create conflict on purpose in order to learn something. And I don't remember the end of your question, which was also good. What was the end of the question, Laura?
In order to force ourselves to deal with the issues we fear or are reluctant to deal with.
Well, I would parse that out and say, yeah, you might do that subconsciously, but if you're doing that consciously, I hope you've gotten a whole lot of great skills and good advice before you consciously take on something that needs solution. Because taking it on from an emotional place will not get you to an intellectually, mentally, psychologically satisfying place.
Hmm. So we keep recreating it, or it seems like it comes up again because we have to take that step back and then we can resolve it. And like,
Well, we have to
okay,
do our internal work.
right.
You know, make sure you got your stuff handled and your skills in place, then do it. You know, when a partner, an ex, or a adult child of a hijackal comes to me and comes to my recovery program, one of the things that they have to do is, first of all, understand what's inside me and what does that look like when it comes out. And how can I replace what's inside me so that it doesn't have to come out in a way that will not solve an issue. Now, many times with hijackals, first of all, we have to learn who they are and how they are. And honestly, it takes so much work for many people to believe that somebody would behave that way. They just believe that somebody would behave that way. No, 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 no. They must be having a bad time. They must be having a bad hair day. They justify, rationalize, and everything. It's so difficult for them. But we have to take some steps to recover from that. And that's internal work. And I always invite these people who come to work with me to do their work first, even while they're in the relationship, if necessary, so that they have a new view for moving forward. They have a new view of the hijackal. They have a new view of the life that they want. And then I can give them the steps for getting out of the conflict.
Yeah, because dealing with conflict with a hijackal is different than dealing with conflict with just people who are not as generally difficult people, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. There are people who are momentarily difficult, and there are people who are relentlessly difficult. Two whole different species.
Two different strategies. One I feel like is more protective of a strategy, and the other one is more proactive, like a proactive, relational development. I don't know.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. I think that we do need to have good skills. And when we have good skills, we believe that we can take care of ourselves. And if that's what you mean by protective, yes. We have to feel confident that we can take care of ourselves. Again, in Kaizen for Couples, one of the main things that you have to have within you is safety. And you have to create that within you in order to create that outside of you.
Ooh, big topic. I think that's another topic we can talk about, safety, creating safety within. Let's do that on a future. Okay, so we have a lot of topics, and if you've found this interesting and fascinating and helpful, please let us know. If you have questions, you can certainly comment here. We're going to be back in 2 weeks with another fabulous, interesting, and useful show, as we always do. And we will include answers to questions if you want. And feel free to be in touch with us on our websites, forrelationshiphelp.com, ta-da, ta-da, transformtoday.com. Whoops, that way.
Transform that, Laura. Transform that.
And just we're having fun here today. So hopefully you had fun and got lots of value, and we loved being with you. So,
yeah, and also share it. If you know somebody who needs this information, share it. And if you want all the back shows, you can go to my YouTube channel for Relationship Help. And all our shows are also there. So if you missed anything, and it's all on this page, of course, Transform Today Live at Facebook. But just know that we're doing our best to save this information for you, so it's always there for you to refer to and share.
Yeah, I think we started this show this year on Facebook, but we've had a couple of years of shows, and they're on your your YouTube channel for relationship help. And this is the Transform Your Relationship Live show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Rhoberta. We will see you
Bye.
next time. Bye for now.